legend from the U.S. Women's National Team. So, what was it like transitioning from that point in your career and moving into the off the field
It was
playing?
really hard. For me, my career ended with injury. It ended sooner than I wanted. And I always tell people, I mean, I've had fantastic experiences and have been so blessed in many ways. But the thing I'm most proud of is learning how to not be a soccer player anymore, because when my career ended playing wise, I really didn't want anything to do with the game. I think I was grieving the loss of it. And not very well, quite frankly. And it took me a while to find my way back to the game and find my love again for the sport. But fortunately for me, I was coaching, and the Big Ten network was just starting. It was the first of the college networks. And they said, "Hey, can you talk about soccer on TV?" And I said, "Yes." And I had no idea what I was doing, people. Like, no idea. But it was a reminder to me to don't be afraid to say yes to things, and don't be afraid to try new things. And I learned as I went. It was a great opportunity because so many people were new in that space. It was a new space and we were all learning together. And I just kept working hard. And I was really fortunate too. I mean, I was at the right place at the right time, but I was working my butt off at the same time. And so I was helping to create opportunity for myself in that way. And started at the Big Ten, got a couple of reps and a couple of experiences with the Chicago Fire doing the sideline at the time. That opened the door to calling the Women's World Cup and getting back to the San Jose Earthquakes where I am. So one door has led to another, but I feel like I've been trying to be a good person, as Jess McDonald was saying, being a kind human along the way and working really hard at it. And I've been fortunate to end up where I am right now.
It's so fun to get that side of the story because from the outside looking in, right, people see a career path and they think like, who knows where I'm going to end up or where I'm going to be. But the flexibility and the movement, it's always possible. And staying connected and finding that network to keep you going is so viable. Is there a teammate? Was there a teammate? Are there teammates that you are still tied in? We know we see some of the familiar faces in the broadcasting world alongside you. Is there anyone you call up for mentoring, bantering to get some insights in the media broadcast world?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first person who, when I started doing this, and I still talk to her to this day, is Julie Foudy, right? Like, she's the real legend, let's be honest. And I'll give you a little inside scoop. Both she and I kind of use this same trick. And I think she'd be okay with me sharing it. But I have a little note to myself whenever I'm broadcasting, and I put it up just to remind myself of making sure that the words I am choosing to say are impactful. When I get nervous or when I'm a little bit insecure, I start talking, which is not always helpful because I'm not adding value or not providing like really concise and insightful information. So I have a little note to myself that says, STFU. You can imagine what that says. Shut the up. Um, to remind myself that I don't always need to talk. Like, I'm talking over the picture, but the viewer has the picture to tell them the story. And I have to add something creative, something insightful, explain why this is happening, explain what the players are thinking about on the field, not explain what's happening because the viewer can see it. It's right in front of them. You have that picture. And so she told me that early on. And I still laugh every day that I am in the broadcast booth and I write that note to myself right before I go on air to remember to be quiet more often than I probably think. And when I choose to speak, make sure that I'm coming strong with something creative, with something insightful, and that's going to help teach the viewer something they might not know.
That might be one of the most fun, best kept secrets that I've ever heard from a media expert. What's more appealing, calling a game or being the post game or pre-game or halftime host? When you're calling a game, are you both of those things? Maybe a little bit of like a day in the life of a calling the game could be an interesting story.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in my position as an analyst, there's really kind of two always an analyst. So your job is to provide the color and the insight, talk about the why and the how, as opposed to a play-by-play individual who will be telling you what's going on or calling the goals or anything like that. I would say that it's more preparation. It's harder to be an in-game analyst, but it's just because you're talking for 2 hours. Like, you have more time that you have to fill. I always say that when you're calling a game, it's like you're making a movie, except you have no script and you have no idea how it's going to end. And so you have to prepare for every eventuality. If Jess McDonald is going to be the star, I have to know about her and talk about what possibly, could be interesting about her over the course of that game, or, in the run of play. If it is Alex Morgan, I have to know about her. And so to me, there's more prep work, but you also have the opportunity to tell more stories and kind of just weave in insights during the beginning, middle, and end of a game. Um, Being a host, or doing an analyst, playing an analyst role like pregame, postgame, or halftime, it's different. It's fun by being in the studio. But it's quicker hits. Like, you have 30 seconds, a minute to get your point across. So you got to come with really punchy things. You got to come fast. You got to come strong. But the benefit is you have a little bit more time to be thoughtful and think through things, because you have, until halftime to provide that commentary or provide that comment. So I really like the variety of doing both. I think doing both keeps me on my toes a little bit more, and makes me better at my job. But so I guess I would say that I like doing both. It just depends on the rhythm and the day.
Do you know how to find hosting or reporting gigs for teams or networks? And a follow up question was, do you need an agent, or is it more of a networking with a particular team or a particular network that you want to work with?
So I would say that it's kind of the television right now is the Wild West, right? And you're seeing that because streaming is coming in, and it used to be much more traditional, like go to ABC or NBC or Fox or ESPN. But now you're seeing so many other platforms, whether it's Apple TV, right? Like this whole MLS thing, that's going on, or Amazon Prime. You're seeing all of these different networks. So, um, because of that, I would actually say I think there are more opportunities with teams, because content is needed like left, right, and center here. And so to me, I think the best way is honestly to go straight to the teams and to see what they're looking for. When you have that, or when you go to the teams, I would have something in your back pocket. So like a resume printed on a piece of paper, not that useful in this world. But like, what content have you created? What do you look like on screen? How are you presenting in a creative way, so they can see what value you can provide in that way? And I think it's a challenge, because it's not like there's one central place to go. It's not like, oh, let me post this on Indeed and then voila, all these teams will see my name. It doesn't work that way. So I would say get out to the teams that you want and put something in front of them and showing them how you can add value. I don't think that an agent is necessarily needed for that. I think one can do it by themselves. I've never had an agent probably up until the last literally like 3 months of my life, on broadcasting. So it's something that I've done by myself. Now, having said that, I'm fortunate, right? Because I'm coming with a little bit of a reputation, and a name recognition because I was a player. That's useful to me in a way that it might not be to everyone. But I certainly would say that an agent isn't required or a deal breaker to do that, but it's certainly something that you can use as an asset. But getting started, I probably wouldn't recommend it off the bat. There's no need to spend that money, unless you feel that that particular person is really going to open up a door for you that you can't open yourself. And knocking on a lot of doors is how I found success early on.
Thanks so much for that, Danielle. It fits so perfectly into the setting that we're in now. There are hundreds of jobs that are open and being advertised, and a percentage of those are here. Take advantage of it. You heard it here, right? Danielle's preaching to the idea that being able to say hello and put yourself out there in a way that's unique to just being on LinkedIn, or you're not going to get to every game in the season. So please take advantage of this to the best that you can, everyone who's out there and everyone who's listening. Who make up your support system in the studio? Are there people who help with your preparation?
So sometimes you're fortunate to have like a research team or a stat analyst with you, but oftentimes, especially in smaller roles or smaller games, you don't. So you're doing a lot of the prep work yourself. I find myself going to newspapers, reading everything I can locally, obviously digging in on the internet, calling people, leveraging my network to find whatever nuggets I can about people. So it is a ton of work. I would say probably the reality of what you hear online or what you hear on screen, you probably hear about 30% of the prep work that I've done. So a lot of it doesn't make it on screen, but that's the amount of work you have to do to be able to call a good game, or to be able to have insight, in my opinion, in the studio or on site.
How much direction are you given by the network? Rewrite what to talk about. So we addressed some of that just now, but it's a little bit of you have more content than you actually end up sharing. But the secondary comment was interesting to me. In NWSL recently, more of what the general public will pay attention to is more controversial, heated content. It's the nature of the sport beast. But how do you discuss and redirect commentary? Is there a trick you have? Is there a useful skill that you kind of hone in on?
So I would say that I'm never really given direction by a network as to what to say. I mean, I am given autonomy to make sure that I provide my voice. That's what I'm paid to do. Now, if I say something terribly wildly off, I'll probably get fired. So I understand that, right? But I have never been told, like, here's what you have to say, here's the line you have to toe. And so to me, when there's these controversial issues, I feel that it's important for us to take them head on. It's important for me to be authentic and to realize that my loyalty and my ownership is to the viewer and making sure that they get the insight that they need. Obviously doing it in a respectful way, but to me, I have to come from a place of authenticity. If I'm feeling a certain way about something, I'm guessing that other people who are watching are probably feeling a certain way about that too. And to be able to tackle that head on, doing it in a way that's thoughtful, that's respectful, that's authentic, and that I'm just a glass half full kind of person, always trying to redirect us toward, this is a terrible situation, but here's the positive that can come out of it. Here's the steps we need to take to continue to improve. Here's the trajectory that we're on. Maybe that's just a little bit in my nature. And so that's where that redirection comes from. But I think it's extremely important for us as reporters, as analysts, to talk about the good stuff and to address the bad stuff too, knowing that we all got to get there together. So let's talk about it. Let's get it out in the open and let's keep charging forward.
Danielle Slaton, everybody.